All rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to welcome our large roster of guests today. Definitely appreciate you guys engaging in local government. We'll begin by calling the meeting to order and determining a quorum with a roll call. Councilor Baumgartner, Evers, here. Ferguson,
Here.
I'm here. Paternoss,
Here.
We do have a quorum. Called meeting to order. First order of business is the swearing in of Marcus Jakes to the Olivia Police Department.
All right. Evening, council. Chief Permo here, and I'd like to introduce you to someone you're already very well aware of, is Marcus Jakes. He's been working with us for a few months now, for sure, and is finally getting his oath of office. He's a very welcome addition to our police department, putting us at full staff finally. The other officers are in the room that have pulled more than their weight to get this position finally filled, and we're very proud to have Marcus as part of our team. So, with no further ado, I will have you raise your right hand and take your oath of office, please. I state your name.
I, Marcus Jakes,
Do solemnly swear that I will support
I will solemnly swear to support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the Olivia Police Department within
of the Olivia Police Department within
and for the city of Olivia, and
for the city of Olivia
state of Minnesota.
and the state of Minnesota.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Oh, gee.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you to the Olivia Police Department. Thank you, Marcus, for joining the family. We appreciate all you guys and gal in the office there for all you do to keep our community safe and welcome. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move now into the public forum portion of the meeting here. This is when the public is invited to come forward and address council. So when you do come forward to address council, we ask that you provide your name for the meeting record, and speaking times will be limited to 3 minutes. If some more fact finding or information needs to be delivered or sought after those 3 minutes, our staff will be more than happy to help you get the information or receive the information you are hoping to communicate. All right, so with that, does anybody from the public wish to address council? Okay, anybody online? All right, seeing none, we'll end the public forum portion of the meeting here and just move forward with the approval of the agenda. You guys have had a chance to look over the agenda. I'll call for a motion to approve it.
So move. I'll second.
All right, motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Evers to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved as written. We'll move down into the consent agenda here, including meeting minutes from May 6th, Resolution 53, authorizing the employment of Carrie Hadler and Rebecca Wilbur as Olivia Liquor Store part-time clerks. Resolution 54, the promotion of Dustin Stonky to Public Works Assistant Superintendent, and setting the date of the public hearing on vacating the north portion of the alley east of City Hall. That'll be set on June 3rd, 2024. I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Paternoss, seconded by Baumgartner to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries as written. We'll move down into discussion items. With us today is Greg Snow from Renville County with an update on goings on at the county that are impacting the community of Olivia.
Here, where would you like me?
The hot seat, please.
Let's see. At the county, we don't want people sit, they have to stay there, but. All right, thank you, Mayor and councilmen, women. We appreciate the opportunity. I think the mayor and I were chatting on Wednesday last week. I said, I haven't come and spoke to you guys in a little bit or had a chance to give you any questions, but obviously we have a county employee right here on your council, so he probably can answer all these things for us. But I just thought maybe this was a time to come back, and we appreciate the relationship in the last, or I don't want to date this too specifically, but in the last few years of what's going on between the city and the county, we've always viewed it as a partnership. Not sure that it's always been taken that way each way. So really looking forward to where this is going. And I know Elizabeth's been at a bunch of our convenes, and we feel those are going very well. Lisa and I had talked about that for years of, is there something we can do more to offer assistance and let people know? And I think, I don't know if you guys have taken advantage of our grant writer yet, that Stephanie has kind of stepped up into this area and she's getting very good at it. AI is helping a lot. Landon knows she's kind of up in that area, but we're not totally reliant on AI on this. But I think that if there's something that comes across your desk where you need a grant and you're not sure how to write it, I think she's a great resource and somebody that can be used. And again, I'm not saying that she's going to always be available, but we kind of wanted to make this known that she's there for you and possibly could be. Biggest hot topic probably for us, well, I think there's two of them. We're getting very intentional about a new building for Public Works. As many of you know, driving by the one right here in town, not real pretty. Well, it's worse from the outside and worse from the inside. So we've got some major issues with that building and we need to get serious. We've contacted the Kubashes, which is right behind Edward Jones Building. And that's kind of the area we're looking at. The price isn't pretty. Farmland is very valuable and they don't want to sell it at farmland price, and we get it. So that's presenting quite the roadblock of just getting the land itself. We're looking at an area also behind, actually two different areas over there behind Turstig's property on the east side of town. That's also a potential, but we've hit some roadblocks there in the past. And the negotiations have been opened up again, hoping that we can maybe further that and possibly get a new maintenance shop for the Olivia Public Works. It's long overdue, but as you guys see in many of your areas, money's tight all over the place, and we're trying our hardest, just like you are, not to raise that levy any more than we have to on people. And of course, when you build a shiny new building, it never goes well, right? Everybody says, why did they build the Taj Mahal? Because that's just what new stuff looks like. And so we fight that public perception as much as you guys do here in the city. But nonetheless, we'll get through it. The next huge topic for us is the Wellness Center, near and dear to your guys' heart, I think, as well. Reason I bring that up is we have two commissioners that are up for election this year and two that have decided that three up for election, excuse me, and two that have decided not to rerun. One of them is Commissioner Kramer. Commissioner Kramer is a champion of this project. He has worked hard and tireless. He set up private meetings with people for donations. I often think, does this guy have a life? I mean, how much he's doing. I believe he's going to stay champion of this event even past his term, but I don't know that. I've seen other commissioners in other counties that when they get done with their terms, they say, yes, I want to be involved. And all of a sudden miss the first three meetings of the next one right after their term and end up having to go, are you sure you still want to stay involved, or is that, has that page turned in your life? And I would never put that on Commissioner Kramer, but we're going to miss him dearly, just so many of you know, especially in this area. So the Wellness Center is obviously reliant on government funding. The state, we need them to come up with some of the funds for us. We've been working hard with local entities to see if they can chip in some donations. Like I say, Commissioner Kramer's worked hard on that. We're working on Prime West, who is our insurance broker for the county, our insurer for the county for our less fortunate people. They have some money possibly for us as well to get this thing going. But Jackie Edwards is working her tail off on this. I know you guys know that. But if anybody's watching this, she's worked tirelessly.
if we don't get funding from the state on this, to a certain degree, it's going to be very tough for the project to move forward. We're meeting some resistance from the outside of the, let's call it the downtown metro Olivia area, if I can say that. I think not everybody views it as a county project. They view it as an Olivia project. We're working hard to try to change that perspective. It's not going perfectly. It never will. I think the southern contingent has something in Redwood and they go there. The western contingent, the western contingent has something in Granite that they go to. So when things are already in place, it's hard for them to kind of get fully on board with something that maybe it'd take them longer to get to, farther to get to. How can they feel like that's a county project when it may not benefit? So I bring all that up to just say that Commissioner Kramer also lives quite away from county seat, and he sees it as a huge benefit and something that can be very good for not only our city, but also for the county in a whole. It's going to be interesting how these next 6 to 8, 12 months go with this. And I would say that the crux of the project or the finality and the future of the project probably weighs in these next few months. And I hope Jackie never gives up on it, but if the state funding kind of falls through and there is no bonding bill of any sort, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for us to make this happen. So that's kind of the front on that. We do have a new auditor treasurer, but she's not new. She's old. She's coming back to us. That's the wrong word, right, Landon? She's familiar. Let's go with that. So Heather Weiss has come back to us after making the rounds with a couple other jobs, and we're super excited to have her. It's been, the deep pause is intentional. It's been a struggle without that. You just don't know what you're missing when you don't have key people in key positions. And so having her is, I know for Landon, I bet it's a breath of fresh air to finally not have to have our county administrator sit into a role that she's maybe not super comfortable with. So we're excited about that and where that's going to go and any changes she might have up there or anything that she wants to continue. Obviously, it being an election year, it's a great time to jump in as the auditor treasurer. Lots of things on her plate with that, but hopefully we've got things kind of in line. We do have a road tour coming up that we do annually. We post it because all the commissioners get into a big van and we have a great day. We just go out and ride around. Sounds dumb, right? We go about 7, 8 hours and we try to drive as many roads as we can throughout the county and see what's going on out there. And we're hearing and comes up often that the roads, they're not pretty. And there's only so much money. And comes down to who gets what road and who gets this one done. And we're paving the most amount of miles we've ever paved. I shouldn't say ever, but probably in the last 20, 25 years per Jeff Marlowe, our public works director. We're paving more miles than we've paved in a long, long time. And it's going to be a very busy summer for them. And we're trying our hardest to get these roads. I'm sure you hear about it from some farmers and from casuals that drive by. And there's just only so much money. It's now up to, for a full rebuild, it's up over 1.6 million a mile. Just putting some blacktop down, you're talking about 1.1. If you do a mill and an overlaid, it's not cheap when you think about how many miles that need to be done in Renville County. County Road 1, which is in my district, Troy Township, just south of Danube, is in need. We've done a lot of patching, but with the construction on 21 right next to the beet plant, Highway 6 is taking a beating. So we have to flop. County Road 1 has to go for a future year, and now we got to go to County Road 6 and fix that. That's why I hesitate to tell my constituents that we're going to get our road done this year, because then you come back and you're looked at as a liar. Even though that wasn't what happened, we have a worse road and we have something that we have to do before somebody could seriously get injured, or, vehicles are definitely on the hook for that. So those are kind of a lot of the topics, the hot topics that are happening at the county right now. I probably could go for another 45 minutes, but it's amazing how many different areas there are that we have to deal with. So I'm here for questions as well. Anything that you might have for Landon.
Any questions for the commissioner? Well, we definitely appreciate you coming by and giving us the
Guys.
update. And we also on this side of the table totally appreciate the partnership with the county and look forward to the teamwork mindset that we're building.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Frank.
Contact information you can leave with Elizabeth or something. I don't know how to get a hold of you.
I don't. but I will shoot you a picture of my card at some point.
Okay.
There, as soon as I get back to my office. tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Somebody in the office has the contact information. I can share it with you.
Thank you.
I have it.
Usually for golf purposes.
If anybody would like one of the comfier chairs in the back, you can feel free to scooch around.
Okay, we'll move on to the second discussion item. This is regarding the Bold Baseball Association and the shed at Willow Avenue. So if you'll recall, we had some direction for staff and Kendra to hypothetically see what it would take to step in some utilities to that, just to get a framework of a idea on what we'd be looking at to turn this into some sort of multi-season baseball training facility, and we have some of that data, and Mike is here to
Mike Nagel.
Dr. Dave, I'm sorry, is here to answer any questions or lead discussion, or do you have any input?
I basically told you kind of where we were at the last meeting, and you guys decided to do what you did. I gave you 3 options, and I think the first one was and that's kind of what we ended up doing. So I guess I'm not really sure why we're looking at this if you're not going to want to own a property and you're going to sell it or get rid of it and you want it moved. And so when I left, I just asked that we could maybe get an extension on the timing, because the current owner of the property has been kind of waiting for me to get to the council to discuss options. And now he's kind of over a barrel. So, but that's for you and he to decide. So unless the city has changed their views on wanting to purchase it back, give it to us, develop it, we're not buying it. We're not in a position to do that. I get money from people that donate it to help go ahead and move forward with projects and we'll just have to wait till we find another building. But it's a shame because the steel in this building is probably going to be the best we're going to get, and he's probably going to have to just sell it for scrap. So.
Yeah, just to clarify, we didn't feel like we had enough information last 2 weeks ago to make a decision on whether or not to move forward or sell it or whatever the case was. That's why we just asked Kendra to throw some numbers at us, so we knew what kind of investment we would be getting into if the decision was made to make it.
And that's my misunderstanding, but
Okay,
I'm getting old.
that's all right.
Yeah. Quiet, Commissioner Gordon.
Okay, so we can open up some discussion on the Willow Avenue shed.
So in my opinion, any type of investment the city would make into this building at this point is too much. We've sold it, it's done and dusted. I think it's time to wash our hands of it. That being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving an extension of a reasonable amount of time to give the current owner a little bit of leeway to see if there is any other viable options other than tearing it down and selling it for scrap.
What kind of timing are you thinking of?
I don't really care, to be honest with you. It's
Staff would recommend not another year. We'd like to rectify this problem in a shorter timeline, so maybe a couple of additional months. But we would advise against extending it for another 12 months, because that hasn't worked the first time.
Sure. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I guess I agree with Landon. I think it's a great idea. It would have been a great opportunity. It's just, I don't think it's gonna work with all the logistics of it. And like I said, yeah, I'll be fine with extending it. I'd say 60 days max. So would be my recommendation.
I agree with George and Linda.
The property owner's here, actually.
The building
The
owner.
building owner.
So, where you said, you're out of money, what would happen if, say,
I would donate money to build it there. Instead of moving it someplace else and having to redo this. You know, cause you gotta talk about finances, well, you know, I got grandkids growing up here, so it's not a problem to donate money to make it work there, just moving it, doing it someplace else, it just quadruples the price of everything. It's already there, all you have to do is put new tin on it, get water and sewer to it, that's, to me, it's minor compared to what things cost nowadays. Especially when you listen to this guy talk about $1.6 million a mile. You know,
And
everything's like that. I don't, I'm just saying, so what would happen if we would just put some money to it?
so
I
I,
already own the building and you guys own the property. But I was told it had to be moved because of the railroad thing or whatever, but somebody said it's not that big a deal.
I'm still waiting for confirmation. I've reached out to the railroad. I'm waiting, for them to get back.
so my thought on this is, one, it's gonna cost us, I think we have $25,000 to $30,000 just to get sewer to it and water. And then another 10,
They're in the street.
it's,
It has to be all redone because it's
Yep.
been disconnected for so long.
I mean, it was a beanstorm, I
Right.
said, for
The only reason
50
I'm saying this is
years.
because I just did a building in Wilmer. And I went a lot farther than that to hook it up. And I dug it all in. And it was less than 10 grand to hook it all up. I mean, it's water, sewer, everything. I don't know what the big expense, that's why I want to know. I was kind of interested, so.
Yeah, even to that point, let's say it was only $10,000, I'm not really interested in having the city own any more property in town. Especially that one in particular. Not to rehash what we did before, but it was in private hands. We overpaid for it, whatever. I just don't want to compound that mistake by sinking more money into it. And then having the ongoing costs of the fact that the city would then own a building, which will probably be a money pit and cost a lot more money to maintain than we think it will up front. We are already on the hook for improving our city pool. We have a different proposal tonight to do $250,000 of trail to go out to one of the parks. We have a lot of expenditures on our plates already before we consider taking another one on. And I don't know if this is a wise investment in the city's funds.
Okay. One more question. So when I take the building off there, you guys gotta clean up the concrete. It's gonna cost you more to do that than it's what would cost to hook it up. Or are you just gonna leave the concrete there? Cause that was one thing I heard before. That's why I had to get rid of it, cause all the concrete's gotta come out. We gotta make it all look nice, blah, blah, blah. Well, I know what that costs to do.
That is,
We're
I,
gonna be working to apply for a blight removal grant with the county to inquire about.
That was one of my reasons why I didn't get out of it when I did. I applied for the blight removal and I told cause I have buildings out there that I want to move it to. And I got denied the blight thing because they said I wasn't putting a building on there. Well, somehow something got screwed up, but it was after the fact and I couldn't go back and say, well, I even told them which building I was moving, so you can see it out the window from where we were sitting. But somehow it got screwed up and I got denied the blight removal too, so I didn't get the money to take my old buildings down to put this on. That was the other one problem. Then my contractor also jacked the price over double what he told me at first. So now I just gotta, my next thing is to disassemble it, but still gotta move. But like I said, the price is just to move it, if we put it someplace else is crazy. Where and you're still gonna own the property no matter what, right?
there's no upkeep on a bare spot of ground. Mowing at most, or some chemical every spring.
But it's still a vacant property that could be used.
Could be.
If a private buyer wants to buy it, they can approach the city for it, but the city, like Landon says,
I did ask to buy it.
Did you? Okay.
I want to buy the whole property.
I think the main reason we bought it
And
was,
he told me no.
Okay. well,
Whoever your little director was, I don't remember her name, was in the office there.
that was previous
Okay,
people, but bottom line is, the reason we got it was to remove that building.
Yep.
We need to follow through on that. With, like Melinda said, we've got millions of dollars of other projects. Unfortunately, this is pretty low on the totem of projects, so to me, I think think we need to move forward with just getting it removed and being done with
The
it.
biggest thing they said was the eyesore, the problem with the rodents and stuff like that. Well, what I plan on doing was re-tinning it. So it looked like a new building. It'd be a nice building and you'd have it'd be usable, you know, for whatever I would decide to use it for, but it wouldn't be, the rodents wouldn't be there because you get rid of the grain. You get rid of the grain, you got rid of the rodents. So
Mm.
that's the whole thing. And wherever I put it, I gotta put new steel on because the steel's rotted, you know how far
Yeah.
up it is. So whether I put it there, but if it was possible that I could buy the property to put the new steel on there, I would gladly do that.
Even knowing the railroad easement on it?
I see now how much actually is there railroad easement? I don't, if it's not that big a deal, I don't.
We're not surveyors and we're not
That's-
prepared to
you
make
got a picture here for you, but
Oh.
I mean, it cuts off a corner of the shed. I would say it's 10% of the property at least,
On which end? The west end?
southwest.
I mean, the other issue with this lot is it's not currently in our code a buildable lot.
Yep. Well,
Nothing
that's
would
what I mean,
meet the
yeah.
setbacks, so I believe the former goal, not having been here when this initial discussion was happening, was the city was purchase the land to remove the eyesore, but they would retain the land because you can't build on it.
Yep.
Nothing would meet any setbacks, so
See, and I was-
selling it right now to a private owner when you can't build on it
Okay.
wouldn't
Yeah,
work.
so I'd say
And I was gonna do with it originally before my kids and all that come up with the baseball thing was, cause Wayne Bone owns the one on the other side of the tracks over by Super Value there. That's that close and he made it into storage units. That's what I originally was gonna want to do it, use it for, cause I just re-steel it, put nice driveways on the north side of it and have it for that, but there would be no wood, you know, but I couldn't, they said, cause they wanted it moved, cause the eyesore, well, I put new steel on it. The structure, the bones of it's excellent. It just siding. That's all to make it look nice.
But the condition of the purchase agreement was
Yeah,
that it
no,
would
I
be
know.
removed.
I
Okay,
understand that.
all right.
Any other discussion?
If we extended it, is there any chance of getting it to Bird Island where it could be made into this baseball building? Or is it just
Well,
it's too expensive?
I can probably find somebody to move it. But the problem is, and this is where I just don't understand, we're talking about this and this, it's 10 grand, people. It's absolutely, it's ridiculous that we're just gonna throw it away. But you do what you want. I'm not gonna argue. And no,
Just to clarify, we don't own that building.
I know how it works.
And if you're willing to donate money, I mean, why not just donate the building?
The,
And then they
The
could
big-
live it out.
Cause
he's already bought it and paid taxes on it. And this is not a Ben Fisher project. This is a Bold project. He's not Bold. You are.
no,
Don't own
we're the
building.
city of Olivia.
Yeah.
Bold is.
Let's, yeah, I don't want to create enemies here. We're gonna have to agree to disagree, and I think this decision is absolutely insane, but that we'll just let it go and you do what you want. It's fine. I mean, I consider most of the people on this committee my friends, and I don't want to argue about it, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's, in my opinion, it's absolutely, we're gonna make a beautiful facility. We have a baseball field that has been built for basically out of volunteers and people that work on it. And that's what this was gonna be, to give people civic pride. And that's what we don't have. That's what's going away in our communities. We don't have any of it anymore. Nobody donates their time. This is something that is a top facility in the state. And just because it sits a few miles from your land, I just don't understand, but I'm old school, so I'm done. I'm fine. You can work with him and then he can decide what he wants to do with it, but I don't see why a private citizen should have to donate $10,000 of their money when you're talking about millions and millions and you've got grants and all this people to do this stuff. We'll do it. Make it happen. I mean, I'm not stopping, so I'm done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Nagel.
You bet.
Anybody want to take action?
I'd move forward with a 60-day extension to have the building site.
I won't be able to get done in 60 days. The contract, I'd say 6 months, I can make it. The problem is they led me on all damn winter, nice winter, saying they're gonna get it done, never did. Then when it come to spring, when I could start moving my stuff, they said, well, then they jacked the price on me, and I said, no, it's just so. They're so backed up. I'm hoping I can get done in 6 months to get it, cause I'm just gonna have to tear it down, cause moving it's just stupid for a price.
That sounds reasonable.
I mean,
And that'd be fall.
To 90 days.
to be clear, I don't care either way. I didn't want the building, didn't care if it got torn down. So that was made by other members of the council. I'm just trying to make a bad situation not any worse.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, part of what's got me balled up is we have a contract, we sold it, and it's supposed to be removed
Yep.
in a month or something.
Yeah.
And now you're saying there's no way that can happen. Should our contract
Well,
mean nothing?
I had a year. So what happened was Mike had come to me and wanted the building. So I said, well, I got a guy that's gonna move it for me. And I said, so that kind of fell through like in January, or whatever. So I called Mike and he said, well, get his thing all rounded up, whatever he could do, see what he could do to get it, to move it and do all that kind of stuff. So I said, well, I'll leave it in your hands until you guys do whatever him with about access. I'm usually not in this area very much, so I thought, well, my grandkids all live here, but he said he got basically a no from you guys. Well, then by then everybody's already swamped. I mean, I know I'll be able to find a mover by the end of the year even, because I had another building to be moved and they told me it's over a year out. So I don't know. I'm stuck there.
This is a different circumstance, I think, than, I mean, I do understand that there was a, a purchase agreement and there was a timeline attached to it, but I think it does deserve a little grace on the timing side of things, just given the availability of we're subject to contract extensions due to construction situations as well. I don't think it's gonna disserve the people of Olivia to give them to the fall.
So like what, the October or November?
Say by November 1st.
Huh?
November 1st would be 6 months.
The end of November. The summer is really, I'm hoping that, when I leave here tonight, I'm gonna get hold of the guy that told me he's gonna tear it down, but he told me at least needed 3 months to tear it down. I mean, a lead time, so that's gonna put me really close if I don't. But I'll see what I can do. And then I can get a hold of Elizabeth and let her know. That works for you guys. I mean,
Want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we extend the deadline to November 1st, barring any other setbacks. If you need another extension by that time, you'll have to come back and ask.
that works.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Baumgartner, seconded by Ferguson to extend the,
Gray beard, gray head. Gets mixed up.
okay. Motion made by Evers, seconded by Ferguson to extend the deadline for building removal to November 1. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Okay.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much, by the way.
I'll probably have a new contract for you to sign to let you know about the extension.
You got my number, so.
Yep. So
Mr. Mayor, we can just do an amendment.
amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, Great.
All right. Now we'll move forward with the next discussion item, the refuse services RFP. I'll invite the representatives from West Central Sanitation to come forward and add anything if there's anything to add. Visitor want to go first?
They went first last time, so I think you guys are up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hogginson, City Council. Don Williamson with West Central Sanitation, owner of the company. Thanks for letting us work for your community for a long time, and we hope we can continue to do that. I'd like to just introduce who's here. I think you met some of them last time, 2 weeks ago, but with me tonight is Taylor Williamson. Give a wave when I give your names. Nikki Pregler is with us tonight, and Patrick Goebel and Jeff Bertram behind me. Also with me tonight, with us tonight, and I'm proud to say that they're with us tonight, are residents of the city of Olivia that are valued employees by our company. Travis Wiedauer, wave, I hope. I can't see behind me. Mitch Lothard is here. Nikki Pregler, I've already mentioned. Joy Jensen is with us tonight, who unfortunately had the phone go off, and I'll apologize for that.
All right. Because Greg's.
I'm not trying to shame you, Joy, but Summer Reisberg is here, and Jesse Requena. And then one that's not here tonight, I don't believe, is Noah. Is Noah Cloutier here? He's a newer employee, and he was recently brought on by our company, so he's not here tonight. We did address questions in the packets tonight that I believe Administrator Torkelson included. And there were further questions that you had 2 weeks ago based on our original proposal. And hopefully they were complete. We did last week meet with the administrator, and we met with your superintendent of public works, Craig, superintendent of electrical, Troy, and your superintendent of water, Dave. And we met with them too to address any concerns that the city has on our operations in town. And we found that most things have gone well over the years. There was no big things when the electrical department was here. When Troy came in, I said, "How many high wires have we taken down?" He said, "You've not taken down any." I thought that's why he was here, but it wasn't that. We did talk about, and I'm glad we haven't, because that does happen occasionally. We did also talk about the road impact, the infrastructure, which has been a concern. They wondered, the question was raised, I believe I'm accurate in this, Ms. Torkelson, that, why we haven't discussed that before, and we have not been contacted about that issue. And I expressed that to the public works and the electrical department and the water. And so we had, and I said, anytime, we're a phone call away. We're more than happy to address those things. We talked with them in quite detail about what we could do differently. And if they want a different truck, if you want a different type of truck, a different configuration, we're more than happy to do that. We have them on hand. They're able to go within a week or so, whatever you would like. If you'd like us to serve the town with a different truck configuration. We also included things that are hard to interpret, which are truck weight schedules coming from the factories. And some of those are hard to decipher, and we'd be more happy to help you with that, because I even have trouble with those. I have to think about them for a while to understand legal payloads. We can tell you, though, that the trucks that we've been serving your community with have met all bridge laws in the state of Minnesota. And so they're legal for work, and they're not supposed to be harming roads. We talked about where our trucks drive, and maybe by using a different truck, we can be out in the middle of the road a little further where the pavement is thicker. It was explained to the group that was here last Wednesday that when they do resurface roads, they typically mill the sides by the curb, and that tar seems to stay thinner when they overlay in the center. And so they were asking if we could stay for that, and we can do that with a different truck, with a side loader, with a longer arm. We'd be happy to accommodate. We also talked about cart placement, which is something we would work with the city with and your residents to address them, or ask if they want to put the carts at least on the street to get us again away from the curb line further. And so that was talked thoroughly. We told at any time we'd be glad to discuss those issues. We also talked about we would continue to do the town on Wednesdays, continue to do everything as we have done, and everything's in place to do that. We want to assure you that we can meet any of these needs at any time during the contract. Anytime you want to talk to us, or anytime you want to change anything, we're capable to do that. I think we've demonstrated that for many years. And so you still have that full assurance from me and my staff tonight. Do you have any additional questions for me at this point in time from anything we've provided to you? Okay. No?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, I would like to say that, kind of in closing, just a few comments that I thank you for placing your trust in me and my company for over 30 years. And we hope we can continue this relationship. We've tried to give, and I think we have given, dependable service. I don't remember any really problems with the service that you've received. I don't recall ever having been called in front of the council for a service issue of any kind. And I've always been to the council a minimum of at least once per year, sometimes twice. I remember not long after getting the Olivia contract, the county Renville County decided to give us the recycling contract because they were having troubles with a provider that had gotten that bid after about less than a year. And I remember the county treasurer, Doug Knutson, called me up and said, can you take care of this? I said, yes. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. Well, in a week we were hired and we came to town, and it was just a few months after that that your current city administrator, Don Frederick, said, would you be interested in a building in town? And would you know what? I bought the old Rafters building. And you talk about rodents. You talk about rodents and other issues. Most of you are too young to remember the Rafters building, I think. But we bought it and we made shop there. We had a Renville County recycling center there, and we were glad to provide that. And we worked with the city and the EDAP to do that. A few short years later, a tornado came to town and took that whole building down, took Haney's construction down at the same time and damaged the DOT building at the time. Well, we reinvested in Olivia. We cleaned that site up, and it was a major cleaning process that Haney we worked together with our trucks and Haney's equipment, and we cleaned up both sites. We both invested in new buildings in town. We invested in one, and we had it just a couple of years ago when we sold it because Arswa was formed and Redwood moved the recycling facilities to Redwood County. So that's why we moved at that time. But during that time, we made many friends and many business partners in the city of Olivia, and we still enjoy those relationships today. And I think we've obviously demonstrated a partnership with your community because I have with me tonight 6 employees. We have 7 that live in town that are residents of the community. We invest over $620,000 a year in those people sitting behind me tonight. And they invest in our company and they invest in your community. And that's a powerful thing to say. So not only do we say we're good neighbors you've come to trust, we live it out. And we've proven that with the trust you've put in us, the partnership you've put in our company. We've tried to repay that and invest in your city. And I wouldn't say just try. We've done it over the years. We've done it, and it wasn't just this year. Some of these people have been working with us for a long time. We're asking you to trust us once again tonight. I'm asking you if you would vote for us to enter a new agreement with the city. We're more than happy to sit down and negotiate terms of an agreement that would best fit what you're looking to achieve in the city of Olivia. You have our past performance and our past trust to realize that we keep our word and that what we say we'll do, we'll perform and we'll do it. After all, if you choose West Central Sanitation, you're choosing Olivia families, you're choosing Olivia residents, and you're choosing homeowners to provide the service for their own neighbors. You're not going to get a better situation than that in today's world. And I'm confident when I say that because I've been in business 45 years. And I know that we always get a better response from staff that are tied emotionally and physically to the community they serve. We've demonstrated that. We've proven that here tonight. When you choose West Central Sanitation, I'm going to ask you to do that. I want to ask you to make a motion for our company. Let us work with you because we've proven we can work with you. But when you choose us, you choose a guy sitting behind me, Travis Wiedauer, who did give you a wave, and most of you know, he's a lifelong resident of the city of Olivia. He's worked for us for 19 years. His kids go to the Bold School District. He went to the Bold School District. He's invested in your community. He's the guy that's here every week to serve your citizens. That guy is going to take care of the needs you have, and he's going to be, your concerns will be his concerns. Mitch Lothar, to my left, he's only been with us 5 years because he's had a long career with another local company. But he came to us through the RSWA contract that we do down there in Redwood Falls. He's a 26-year veteran of your fire department. He coached youth baseball. And I'm probably missing some things, Mitch, so forgive me. But he's the guy that when Travis takes a load of trash down to RSWA, he's the guy in the new payloader that puts it in a semi truck to transport it to a Minnesota approved landfill. You can trust Mitch to do the job right, to finish the job. Nikki Pregler, you've met, you know her. She's an Olivia resident. She works in human resources and she does a heck of a job, I might add. But she's the one that when she onboards a new employee, she's going to know someone who comes from Olivia. When she hired Noah Cloutier just a month ago, she vetted Noah. She knows he's going to be hired to deliver carts and hopefully he does a good job. Nikki's going to pay special attention to hire people that serve you well. Summer Reisberg, she's been with us less than a year and we're fortunate to get Summer, but she's a 5th generation in the city of Olivia. She has roots here, deep roots. She's putting down more roots. Her kids are in the Bold School District today. She works in our billing department. 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 She works in our billing de She takes payments from the city of Olivia, makes sure they're posted correctly. She sets up Olivia accounts and tries to make sure they're accurate, and she pays attention to those details. Jesse Requena is with us tonight. Jesse has 4 children in Olivia schools. He attends a Methodist church in town. He serves the area immediately around Olivia, and if there's a problem in the middle of the week, Jesse's the guy that's going to get the call to come into town and pick up the extra. Somebody has a leak in the basement with a flood, he's going to come and help out. If somebody got missed because they got it out too late, Jesse will get the call. He'll swing into town and pick it up. Joy Jensen, he grew up in Olivia. He graduated from Bold. He worked at West Central Sanitation for 14 years prior. In the meantime, he owned his own business for a while. When he decided to sell that business, he decided to come back to West Central Sanitation. He works in our Wilmer transfer station now, and we're glad he chose to come back to West Central. It also tells you that somebody who's worked for us wants to come back. That tells you something, I think. He's a resident of Olivia too, his kids, and I believe hopefully his future grandkids will be a part of the Olivia area. Noel Cloutier is new to us, Olivia resident. He's new and he's excited about getting his CDL training, and he's going to work in container delivery and removal and adjusting in the city of Olivia. So all these people are residents of Olivia. They're taxpayers, homeowners, or they rent an apartment. They and their families attend Olivia schools, or they attended Olivia schools. They attend local churches. They've coached sports teams. They've even been on your fire department. They patronize your shops and your stores, and they're a part. West Central Sanitation is a part of the fabric that makes up the community of Olivia, and we want to continue to do that. And I would ask you to let us do that. We won't let you down. We won't let you down. Never have, and we won't. And appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Gentleman from Sweetman and lady.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, council, for giving us the opportunity to participate in this RFP and the opportunity to bid on your community. Dominic was here last time to spoke for us. I was at a waste conference, was out of town. I did watch online or whatever, but so I appreciate him stepping forward to do that. But again, I appreciate the time and opportunity to do this. We are a new company. We're just about a year in business, but we've been around the industry way more than that. Myself, I've been in the industry for more than 25 years. Going back to Curry Sanitation days back, early 90s when I started for Curry Sanitation. It was a local owned company down in the Renville County area in St. James, Wyndham. My uncle owned a company in Wyndham as well. I was around him, the industry the whole time. I went to college, I got my degree, was an accountant for a few years, had the opportunity to get back into business again with waste management. It was a great opportunity because you know what you know, right? That is true. And I was able to see the business from a perspective I'd never been able to see without that. I worked for them for, I don't know, I think it was running around 5 years. I started as a route manager, ended up as an area manager, covered 7 different states. I don't know, I think there was roughly 200-300 employees in that area, but you see things from a perspective that you wouldn't be able to see, which gave me a great perspective of the industry, which allows us to bring that knowledge and back to the area as well. I've worked for West Central Sanitation. Don Williamson is just up here. Great man. Worked for him for a long time. I admire him very much so. And he runs a great company. And I worked for him for 11 years, helped grow his area and do a lot of great things. A year ago, we decided to start on our own, do our own thing. My brother, who's been in the industry for about 10 years, and my son, a little bit less than that. Both very passionate about the industry, very passionate about the area and the community. That's one of the things that we strongly pride ourselves on. You'll see it in our trucks. Look on the side of our trucks. They got the school's logo on the side of the truck. We love the pride. We love to bring that out. We like to showcase it. Nobody's going to be prouder than you are. You have to set that bar. Nobody's going to bring more pride into the business than you are. So we got to set that bar. And as we grow and we got employees, or add employees, we want to set that same tone. So that's the mentality we've taken throughout that path. One of the great things it does for the communities as well is competition. Competition is a great thing. It helps bring competitive pricing, which everybody loves pricing because it helps save the community money, but it does so much more than that. It brings competitive services. It brings reasons to think outside the box. If you constantly live in a world without competition, there's no reason to change. We just adjust things. We just, well, you know, whether it's you charge more or you just accept less or whatever it may be, but there's nothing that drives that, nothing that pushes that. And that's what competition does. And competition's a great thing. And by choosing Sweetman Sanitation, the community also chooses to ensure competition longevity. So down the, years down the road, you got that competition there. There's a lot of years there was no competition in the Olivia area. There's a lot of years there was no competition in the Renville County area. We just bid Arswa recycling contract. We weren't awarded it. We were not low bid on that one, but it reduced the price by more than half. And that's what competition does. And it also helps us think, how do we do things better? Whether it's, do we need to look at different trucks? Do we need to look at how we do things? How do we help serve the community better? It brings out pride things, how do we step forward to be better community members? How do we encourage everybody else around us to do the same thing? It's contagious, I've always said everything, our actions are a contagious part. We can talk and say, but their actions are the contagious part. So, and it helps us do that. It helps us, you'll find I love to be community members. My wife and I, we pride ourselves in that. Sure, we give donations whenever we can, and we wish we could give more a lot of times, and hopefully someday we will. But we give our time every time we can too. Whether that be volunteering for Rotary on the chamber board, the school does career days. I go speak at career days. My son, who's a great speaker at career days, because he's younger, he relates better. Things like that. Anytime we get a chance to give back, we love to do that. And that's what you're going to get with us, is you're going to get somebody that's committed to your community, committed to make a difference, committed to keep pushing that envelope. And hopefully we can push everybody around us to do the same thing. That's our goal. Success to me, I've always said, you need to define success to be able to reach success. And defining success to me isn't necessarily, being this huge waste management company. Success to me is how can we make this community better? How can we make all of our communities that we live in better? Whether it's internal customers or external customers, how do we push that envelope to try to get everybody to step up and do a better job? And in all cases we can. That doesn't mean we're not doing a good job. Doesn't mean we're not doing a great job, but it makes us think how we can do a better job. So that's what I hope to do. Again, I hope you guys choose to work with us. I assure you, we have all the expertise and staff and equipment on hand to make this a successful transition. I've done this a long time. I've rolled out a lot of communities. I've rolled out, whether it be in my waste management days, we do acquisitions and you got 100 employees, getting them trained in, all those moving pieces, making that work. It all comes down to prep work ahead of time. I assure you, we've done a lot of prep work in Olivia ahead of time. We're very familiar with this town, and who's got what size dumpsters and where they're at and carts and all that stuff. And we have the equipment on hand and we're ready to help you to make that transition if you so choose to do that. And thank you for your time.
Questions? You guys have all had a good chance to review the data that was compiled, and all right.
PennDOT report.
Yes, very digestible.
All right. Anybody care to take action?
I would make a motion that we renew the West Central Sanitation contract for 2 years, but break out dumpsters and open that up for just let the citizens decide what they want to, who they want to get dumpster service from. And in that way, we can revisit this, keep the competition going and see where it goes.
Does that require an ordinance change?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, you have a organized collection. So we would need to look into that if that would be possible. I'm just looking at your code now. And
Thought we needed clarification.
so I need clarification on if you were going to look at the contract with respect to the storage, but for organized collection, we need to dig in a little bit whether that means just the normal services or if the one-off construction projects can be outside of that. And I would have to go back and look at what was actually put on the ballot when the organized collection, because it was approved by the, long ago, approved by, to have organized collection, it had to be approved by the voters long ago. So we would need to go back and look at what the ballot question, what was on the ballot.
The previous contract that's currently existed says all refuse, but I know that's not explicitly laid out in our code.
Right,
So-
and the definitions aren't clear. There is no definitions. As far as the refuge, it includes of all kinds in the operation of a household. So I think that there could be some exceptions that this isn't in the operation of a household, but we would want to make sure first. As far as
Yeah,
May I address that to help bring some clarity?
yeah.
I suppose you were there, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I bet you were there.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and City Attorney. I'm not a legal expert at all. I can just tell you I was there. The thing that's unique in some towns on Highway 212 in Renville County, and we've had this was investigated many years ago. It wasn't on the ballot here, Madam Attorney, because the city of Olivia, city of Sacred Heart, and city of Renville, at a minimum, had their own trucks. It was a municipal provided service. It was organized under state law in antiquity, you might say, because it was a vassal of the city itself, just like the utility department was. It was part of the utility department. When they decided then to contract it out, we served just as the city services in lieu of the city providing the service. The city decided they were losing money on the trash side, and it was one thing they could contract out and reduce the cost. Therefore, that's why the residential and the commercial is all inclusive in our original agreement. Okay, any questions on that, Mr. Mayor?
No, so that's what the agreement looked like, but that doesn't really address the city.
Right, so your code says that it excludes similar substances which may accumulate as a result of construction or demolition operations.
Okay,
So that would be excluded.
That can be excluded.
Mhm.
okay, so Matt, Councilman Baumgartner's motion is evidently a valid motion.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure, Ray.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Right, Mr. Sweetman.
And he asked a question about, that's splitting that off or whatever, and you brought that concern up. Is there any legal concerns if you would say choose to split and award commercial to one company and residential to another company?
Well, so that's just not allowed under the code. It's not one of the exclusions listed.
That's
Yeah. No, good question.
But it'd be like the one-off type, like if my house floods and I need a dumpster real bad or something like that, you could contract openly, I think, if I understand.
Under the definition of the code for garbage and rubbish.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Mr. Williams. Got a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Ebbers to renew the West Central sanitation contract for 2 years, leaving open the dumpster option.
Like the one-offs you're talking about, like construction.
For construction, not like.
So it would be any direct negotiation for individual construction projects that are not considered operations of a household.
What's the industry term for those? Just dumpsters?
Roll-offs generally, but
Roll-off.
Roll-offs.
containers as well, like small.
Does this include roll-offs that are present at apartment buildings and things like
It
that?
only says as a result of construction or demolition
Okay,
operations.
got it. So, all right. All right, so a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
Just that we should focus on trucks that are as light as possible per axle. Save the roads to the extent possible.
Got it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign?
Aye.
All right, appear to have a divided council here, so we're just do a roll call vote. Counselor Baumgartner?
Aye.
Evers?
Aye.
Ferguson?
Aye.
Patterness?
Aye.
And I must abstain, so, motion has carried, and, we'll enter negotiations to renew a 2-year contract with West Central Sanitation. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, Kendra. We, our next discussion item is, phase 3 of the active living trail. Thank you, representatives from West Central Sanitation and Sweetman Sanitation for coming. We appreciate your, participation in this process. And you're welcome to stay. It's already been a long one for you guys.
Don't have to leave on my account, but. This will work. I'll share my screen, Jasmine. Okay. I guess in the meantime, I'll just get started. So last city council meeting, we discussed phase 3 of the active living or safe routes to school trail. With the length of it going from Highway 71 by Pond Park all the way to Memorial Park. For a total length of just under a mile of trail. And then looking at the cost of that is pretty substantial when you come to the city portion of it. So I was asked to review it and shorten the length to just Fairview Avenue. So you go from about a mile and then we go down to about 3,500 feet. So a little more than half a mile on that. When looking at the trail length, so let me just, so it would go still from Pond Park and then would go to Fairview Avenue. And go along the south side, similar layout as before. There's something that I need to do different, Jasmine? Okay. So it didn't work last time either, but I guess with the new layout and construction or looking at preliminary design of the project, there aren't areas that are easy to cut costs. As far as the construction, obviously the cost will go down, but anything that is done in the preliminary design would be a little bit harder for us to cut costs on. So I guess construction wise, let me find, let's see. Weird. So if we go down to the construction cost of the trail, again, just going from Highway 71 at Pond Park to Fairview Avenue, the total construction cost goes down to an estimation of $637,000, and it was previously $895,000. So construction goes down. Obviously, if you kind of break it down into a per foot cost is a good way to look at it. The biggest change is that if we stop the trail at Fairview, there's no longer a need for an easement from the adjacent farmland. We wouldn't, I guess there'd be an easement from the EDA property that is owned or however that is deemed. But then it would stop at Fairview, but you would still, if you break this up into 2 different parts, part 1 and part 2, assuming that at some point you would want it to go all the way to Memorial Park, you would then need to get that easement from that adjacent farmland. But at this time, if we broke it down to just end at Fairview, you wouldn't need that. So that land acquisition, we were estimating that we need about an acre. And based on current prices, we figured it'd be about $15,000 of that. So that was a pretty easy take off from there. And then obviously overall construction of the trail would go down. So again, you went from, I would say, just right under $900,000 to $640,000. So you have initial cost savings in that. As far as the project related costs that were outlined in phase. Sorry, I saw the screen move, so I thought I
Your
looked.
laptop is not connected.
Okay, no,
Sorry.
that's fine. So if we look at the project related costs of the project, we have done the same formatting of how we do preliminary design for phase 1 and phase 2, that we would do the same thing for phase 3. So we have to go through an environmental review, and your environmental review, as far as the amount of time that it takes and what they look at, does not change based on the area that they're looking at. They would still have to look at all the environmental reviews and go through all the same review processes. So that doesn't really change. We would have a wetland mitigation that would be analyzed to make sure that there's no wetlands in the area. Again, you do that regardless of the size, and it takes them the same amount of time regardless of the areas that they're looking at. We were able to reduce the cost for surveying, because obviously they're not surveying land for an entire mile of trail. It would just be that little over a half mile. So that went down a little bit. And then engineering costs went down a little bit as well. But there are benefits to doing everything at once. So there are ways to save money if you look at a bigger project versus a smaller one. You can say that for anything. I guess from that standpoint, if we look at I'll just look on here, it's easier for me, the task hour budget that was sent over for a preliminary design for, I'll say, part 1 of phase 3. We had a total of just over $71,000 to do the preliminary design. So that included the preliminary design itself. So we look at the area that we're potentially putting the trail on. We'll start the design process there. But before we do any of those things, we would look at starting that project memo. As we've seen with phase 2 of the trail and phase 1, it takes about a year to get everything done for that review, for that environmental review. And then we would have the wetland delineation, and mainly the review, sorry, I'll back up a little bit. The CADX review is because it just has to go through so many people to review it, is why it will take that amount of time. And then the wetland delineation, again, is done through our wetland department at SEH, and then they just have to make sure that there's no wetlands in the area that we would be impacting. And then the survey, again, just looks at the area, and they'll come out and do that official survey. Once the survey is completed, we can start the preliminary design. As I discussed at the last meeting, there was a grant that the city was awarded. And from my understanding, it doesn't sound like anything would change or is changing with that.
We can scale back the project if we would like to do a part 1 versus part 2. However, MnDOT was very careful to say they cannot guarantee any type of funding source for part 2, right? Like, we have what's on the table. They don't know what funding sources will be available in the future or anything like that. So, they said we can alter the length of trail that we're doing if we wanted to, but they just cautioned that they don't know what funding would be available to do the part 2 of the trail.
So part 1 is around the pond to Fairview. and
Correct.
then Part 2 is from.
Fairview to Memorial.
Park,
Yep.
if we wanted to.
It's an easier way to break that down, I guess, but.
The number, the rate of the
Grant?
grant is the same?
It would probably go down,
Okay.
because it's covering a less big total. They weren't able to give me an exact amount because I didn't want to tell them we were going one way or the other.
Mhm.
So the grant still would be available, but probably just not at that amount because
Okay.
the project's smaller.
And to be fair, the grant at the amount that would be, or that was awarded, if I'm remembering correctly, was $580,000. So if on the cost estimate, I broke it down to just show like an 80% funding and a 20% city cost. So 80% funding of the new, I'll say of part 1, it'd be a little over $500,000. So you still would not, even if they kept it at 584, you're not going to get that. You're still only going to get the 80% of the construction costs, because they don't cover the engineering fees that are associated with the project. So if this is correct, if it's to this dollar amount, your grant would go down to that $510,000, even though you were awarded the $584,000.
Grant was for 70%. Remember, wasn't CRP covering 70%?
Is 80.
80, okay, good.
Now I'm questioning.
Anyway, the grant
Okay.
would cover this full amount.
Right. If it's a 80-20 split, which is typically what they go, what it will amount to, and it would be 80% of the construction cost, and then 20% would be city funded. So that 80-20, so it'd be that $510,000 that the grant would cover, but it's still, even if you were given the $584,000, they're not gonna give you the extra if it's not part of the construction, to just clarify that a little bit.
If we do this phase one, what's the city got a bond for to cover that? Do you know how much it is?
Yep, so if the city does part one of the project, and you would share in the 20% of the project total cost, and then you obviously, the project related cost, which would be the engineering and administration part of it, is little less than $160,000. So all in, I have estimated that the city would, pay $286,798. So about $290,000 is what the city would be responsible
I
for.
miscalculated that when I sent that to Sean, so I don't have that exact bond payment at my fingertips. I apologize.
But it's what, $400,000 for doing the whole thing?
The bond payment for the whole or just part one?
Well, if we're gonna do the whole parts 1 and 2, so both of it, it looks like,
Parts 1 and 2, it was a $500,000.
Correct.
This is your reading. This is just for part 1.
no, I'm reading last week's council packet. Technology.
Yeah, but
It's
this is-
20% of this.
Oh, okay.
Plus 20%
Yeah.
of that.
I don't have that number right off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Okay, you're the finance guy.
Do a bond payment off the top of my head.
You can, Landon, that's very impressive. What Elizabeth is right. So what MnDOT said is right. If you break this up into part one and part two, you don't know what's going to be available for part two. That's not to say that there isn't going to be a grant available in some way, shape, or form, but we just won't know until that time comes. The city has been lucky with the TAP grant for phase one and phase two that we've used. So the alternate transportation grant that we've acquired for both of those phases, and they work the exact same way, where it funds 80% of construction, and then the city has to match 20%, and then all engineering or administration parts of that are also the city's responsibility. So I'm sure there will be some sort of a grant available, but you just don't know what that is. Where at this point, you know what you're getting for the cost of the project. And then with that being said, when you break it up into phase one or part one and part two of this phase, you would have to then redo the CADX memo for the next part. And you would also have to do the wetland delineation for the next part as well. So those would be items that you'd have to do a second time. And then on top of that, the engineering cost, again, you would have engineering for phase or part two of that phase, the same that you would for this one. So those are also items to consider how you want to break it down.
Part two is sort of silly. Like, you can walk on the road to Memorial Park if you want, just the way it is right now. I really am not interested in buying land to throw a sidewalk down next to the road. It's already not used that much. I walk it, often. It's safe. So part two for me is a non-starter. I don't ever want to do a part two. I do love the trails in town. But even part one, given that we have gone to go ahead with the pool, we haven't really internalized those costs yet. That's $100,000 a year extra, if I recall correctly, that we're gonna be carrying around.
So for pool bonding, we're bonding $750,000
Right.
at 5% for 20 years. That's an annual payment of $60,000. The 40,000 is the operational costs. And sorry, $500,000, which is for the estimate for the full trail, is $44,000 a year for 20 years.
Yeah. The reality is you can walk around the pond right now. I do often, right? Or at least in the warmer months. And it's we don't have to invest anything. You can still walk the trail right now. You could walk it with a stroller with bike tires on it,
Really big tires.
Sound like tires.
Wait till it dries up a little bit. Come
Yeah.
on.
I guess the point I'm getting at is I just don't have a hell of a lot of appetite for taking on more debt to finish this thing out. And the grant is great, but hell, maybe we can get a better grant that covers more next year or the year after.
I mean,
So,
there won't be, right?
Typically,
There's not gonna be more coverage. This-
no.
Yeah.
What we have,
You're never gonna
there
get
may be
100%.
grant.
You gotta take what you can get when you.
right.
You're not gonna get another grant. that
And
covers
number
100%.
two, with the grants, don't you have to end at a destination?
You have better outcomes if you have a destination in your trail. So when you break it at Fairview, there's not a destination, you're just ending it at a street. But when we submitted it because we had an end destination for the user of the trail. So your end destination was Memorial Park. I mean, it gets you somewhere into the city. Not that getting to Fairview doesn't get you somewhere in the city, but it's not an attraction, so to speak, that's pulling you towards that. So like phase 1 went to the school, phase 2 went to Pond Park, and now Pond Park is gonna take you to Memorial Park. That was kind of the way that
well,
the,
it's also accelerated, isn't it? Weren't we gonna do this last part of the trail next year?
we did
Pull forward for.
We did jump the gun a little bit from what we initially were discussing because this grant became apparent to us at last minute
Yeah.
and nobody else had applied for the grant. So we were the city of Olivia was the only participant that applied for the grant. So you knew that we didn't know, I guess, but you were making the assumption that you were getting the money to some extent. But yeah, so we did get into this one because they offered more money for the grant itself. I mean, in past or looking at the other grants that were also available that could have been applied for phase 3 were a maximum of between $200,000 and $300,000. This one had a maximum grant available of $750,000 and the city of Olivia was awarded the $584,000.
One more piece of information for the council to consider when making a decision on this extension here is that this is surrounding a parcel of land that the EDA has highlighted in the HRA as the next development site in Olivia. There is some momentum out that way. How many lots have sold here in the last year?
We have no lots left along that Fairview Road stretch.
So
You'll see a
consider,
house going up on one of those lots right now.
consider that, that in your decision making as well, that this is potentially a pipeline for a new neighborhood.
Another thing you gotta think about too is ADA.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Not everybody has 2 legs or can use 2 legs
Yes.
effectively.
We're spending money real fast
That's my feeling.
and we already raised the levy, what, 10% last?
Well, and we're gonna redo City Hall. That's 2.5 million minimum. The school referendum's coming on. That's gonna be, an extra $100 a month at my house.
I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit,
That's
like,
what I feel like.
and believe me, I would be the first, I get to eat my words. I thought the walking path was dumb and I use it frequently, so.
Yeah, and I'm not against it.
And I utilize.
I understand,
I
yeah.
enjoy it, I like where it, especially like where it ends up, very convenient for me, very nice, I love it. But that all being said, we are taking on some payments here that when assuming we're moving ahead with City Hall, which I have to make the assumption we are, assuming everything's going ahead with the pool, because we said it's going to. We still have to pay for phase 2 of the trail yet. We haven't even paid for that yet. We're blowing through other people's money real fast. And I think there's nothing that phase 3 gets to. Like, we get to Pond Park, get to West Course Apartments, awesome. There are 3 houses outside of Fairview Avenue. We're not serving a lot of people that way. Like, this seems like a logical place to pump the brakes at. And maybe we need to take stock of the commitments we've already made that are multi-year commitments before we move forward with more spending. That is what my vote's gonna be in favor of. Like, I get that it'd be great to have a walking path going all the way around town and stuff, but we're baking in levy increases for the next 20 years. 40, well, City Hall will start cash flowing, roughly speaking, in 20 years at least, but between the pool and City Hall, we have,
Pool is a big kicker. The citizens really wanted that. Very expensive to do the pool.
it is,
It has ongoing costs.
it's a big old park. It's a big old park, then parks cost money. It's the facts on the ground.
Yeah.
I think you gotta pump the brakes. I don't really support doing any of phase 3 at this point in time. I hope it's something that we can do in the future. I really do. But right now, I feel like we need to let the dust settle a little bit.
I'm a bit nauseous from all the spending. It seems like we have spent a lot and I'm getting tired of it.
Any other discussion?
I guess I would just like to make one point of the route that phase 3 was chosen by the park board or recommended by the park board. And they wanted it to be more of a nature trail at this point. And that's why it doesn't go through residential. They did look at residential areas, but
And again, hopefully this will be residential in the future. That's
right.
absolutely
Yeah, Fairview.
spectacular, but
This can be done tomorrow. You know, we can
State of
kick this
Minnesota-
down the road and it's fine.
state of Minnesota loves throwing grant money out at stuff like this. I think we'll be okay in the
Yeah.
future. We're very good at spending money there too.
And part of the acceleration with this was because of the grant. We had to get everything rolling. So that was part of the,
And yeah,
if it was going to be done, we needed to start.
and I get it, and I appreciate the work you put into
Yeah,
doing this. I really do. It's
Not
just,
poo-pooing the grant, but
Nope.
still, it's the grant we gotta come up with.
right. No, I understand that.
or yeah, 500 if you do the whole thing, or
Right.
if you do them in 2 pieces, probably 600.
Mhm.
Because economies of scale and fun things like that. So my motion would be to not move forward with phase 3 of the trail project at this point.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made by Paterno, seconded by Baumgartner to not move forward on phase 3 of the SRTS Active Living Trail. Any further discussion?
It's disappointing, but I get it at the same time. I just worry it's gonna be one of the things that'll get kicked down and it'll never get done. So
To that point,
there'll always be, we're spending too much money. You could say that every meeting. And you two are the tightest people I've ever met.
That's like a badge.
Yeah, it should be badges.
No, not really. Because that also brings people to want to live in this community, seeing trails, putting money back into the community also makes.
And the
wanna
people that
come.
live in that area aren't the only ones that are gonna use that.
Right, everybody's gonna use that trail.
I agree. I would be a user of this trail. I would enjoy
Yeah.
using this trail.
But I also see that's a huge chunk of change at this time if the pool was out of the question, then I'd be really lobbying for it hard.
I'd be more
But
apt to go for it.
I
then.
think
We just picked
that-
up a huge expense there.
Also, council consider that this conversation was pretty much gonna be scheduled for next year anyway, right?
It was initially, I won't deny that. It was something that would probably this time next year would have been the plan. I'll say the plan of attack for phase 3, but because this grant, like I said, was available and it had a max payout, so to speak, of a higher dollar amount than the other grants that we've applied for. And knowing the length of the trail going from Pond Park, I'll say all the way to Memorial Park, knowing that that was a much larger trail because it would be essentially phase 1 and phase 2 put together is what we were looking at. So knowing that there was a higher payout potential for this grant was a big enticer of that as well.
No, I think it was great that you guys went for it.
Kendra, is this basically the only opportunity for us to find a destination Memorial Park, you think?
I think for this phase, the way that it's drawn out now, I do think that Memorial Park is going to be your destination. If you did it differently, if you only went around the pond, like, so it was just essentially like a circle around the pond, I mean, that would be an option too. Then you'd probably be looking at essentially the same length if you stopped it at Fairview. You do have to, and I don't know how much you guys can see if you have whatever pulled up in front of you, but this section that goes around the north side of the pond, that can't go any further south because that's the overflow area.
Yep.
So that would stay the same. But then if it then came back down south again and went just around the pond and back to Highway 71, you kind of have like that full circle. If that was maybe more appealing, I don't know how that would look for the grant. I mean, it would just be a loop, right? Which is not bad. I mean, if you know how long it is, I mean, it would get you around. But if you're looking for a destination in close proximity to this, it would be likely Memorial Park.
There aren't any destinations on the east side of town that I can think of, right?
It would be the north side of town. They looked at, Dirks Park for like softball field or the baseball fields and things like that, Henton Park. And the hospital was the other one. I guess these three were probably the big ones that they looked at. When I presented to the park board, when we were looking at going from phase 1 to the hospital, it was going through more residential neighborhoods, and that is always harder to do if you're going through residential neighborhoods. Yes, because then you have to combat everybody that doesn't want the trail in their front yard or their backyard or wherever it may land. So in that, when you look at it that way, this was, I'll say, an easier way to go, versus going out to the hospital without getting too much into the weeds of that. But that was the plan of this. But yeah, otherwise, you know, like I said, you could go just around the park and that would, or around Pond Park, and that would potentially be an option. Otherwise, Memorial Park would be I would say your closest quote unquote destination for phase 3.
Thank you, Kendra, for clarifying that.
Yes.
Any other discussion? There's a motion on the table that was made by Paternoss and seconded by Baumgartner to not move forward with phase 3 at this time. That
That's correct.
sound right? Okay. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Can I just clarify that I can take looking for grant for phase 3 completely off the table, off of my to-do list until directions given by the council that they're interested in entertaining that?
At a minimum, I would say for the next year, because it wasn't planning on starting up this project for another year.
now.
Do you?
Mhm.
You say so.
Yeah.
Year out.
I just want to understand, like, I'm hearing here that this isn't a priority, so I would like to remove it from my priority
How much you want to
list
invest your time
Yeah.
into it?
to do it.
Well, you like just put it down the list. A long ways down the list.
A long ways down the list. Okay.
I don't want to forget about it. I think that email is a worthy thing. It's just-
Give like a list, and then when you get bored, a backup list.
I'm never
Sure
bored in
there's
this
left.
job.
Oh, okay, weird.
We
Okay.
can discuss what priority level we want to.
Okay.
And the other option too, knowing typically with grant applications, your deadlines are March, April. I mean, you could revisit this at the first of the year. It's not a long ways away. It'll come
Right.
up real quick.
Yeah.
But, right. But I will say the other thing with this grant is that it had a very quick turnaround time of when you had to have the money spent. With the TAP grants we've had for phase 1 and phase 2, it's been 4 years out. So you're awarded the grant in 2020. We're not spending the grant money until 2024 for phase 2. So there's a lot longer on the other grants that we have worked with. This one had a much quicker turnaround time.
A much larger amount.
Resources for grants too. Thanks to Greg Snow offering
Yeah.
services and stuff. Not
I
that
was
she's busy at her.
Thinking that as well.
That's good to know.
But just kind of keep that in mind that typically you have a longer amount of time to consolidate any funds that you would want for that as well.
Kendra, you still have?
I have one more. Yep. You can't get rid of me that.
Oh, that's all right.
The next item that I had was Dowling Square, so just off of 9th Street. Was also something that's brought up through the park board of revamping or improving Dowling Square. It was, I guess, proposed to, there have been water issues, I guess I'll back up a little bit, of the adjacent buildings. And they're not sure 100% of where the water is coming from, but we do know that there are some drainage issues in Dowling Square. So the idea is to remove the existing concrete, and then redo the subgrade preparation so that it will drain towards the center of Dowling Square versus towards the buildings and help with any runoff that would go into the ground, from stormwater, things like that. And then add a little bit of a nature feature, so a plant bedding area, to that concrete pad, if you will. And then if there's any other, in the plans that I sent over, I showed benches, or I know in the park board meetings, we discussed, the canopy sails, sun sail, I think is what they're called. Something of that nature to give more shade in, the middle of the day, things like that. So I guess I outlined an agreement for the design of that. And when I brought it up to the park board, we had a construction cost estimated of about $23,000. And then with a contingency and project related cost, we have an estimation of about $33,000 for the project. And that would include removing the existing pavement, taking out anything that's underneath it to allow us for the subgrade preparation to put in better, I'll say a better sub base for drainage. And then we'd also be adding some for storm sewer. So we'd put in some drain tile. So if there is water that gets down into the ground from rain, however it gets in there, it would then go into the storm system that is already there. So we would add I'll call it a yard drain. So it would be similar to like a catch basin that you see on a curb, but it would be flat and you could walk on it. A grate of that. And then that would connect into the existing storm sewer that's already in place in the alley to the east. So we would be doing that. So it would include all of that. Like I said, take out the existing concrete. They'd be putting in new concrete. We looked at other options and felt that the concrete was better as far as an ADA standpoint to allow access for everybody to use that. And then the construction cost would be putting in the new concrete, and getting that all situated in the storm sewer. And then I know there's talks of adding electrical, which is not included in my cost estimate. That would be something that I assumed that maybe Troy would do, or that would be contracted out. And then there was also discussion of, I think, moving the water, but that I did not include in this. Was that not? Okay. I misspoke that. Yeah, that was my understanding. Yep. So
There has
then,
been discussions
Lock it.
to move
Sure,
like,
okay.
the utility boxes
Okay.
out of that like front area.
Yep.
But a lot of that is electrical work.
And I did include an area for that new concrete pad, whether that's done with this project or prior to. If you look at the phasing parts of it, if you are gonna be removing electrical boxes, you probably want that moved before they put in new subsurface to get it out of the way. So that pad would need to be done prior to them putting it in, just so they could get that out of the way for grading purposes and things like that. Getting a little bit ahead of myself there, sorry. But again, so the construction cost that we have was a little over $23,000, and then we have contingency and project related cost. And then that would bring your total to about $33,000. I did also include a task hour budget, which is where we come up with the project related cost. So it'd be the preliminary design and some topo survey of the area is what we would have to do for that. And because this project is under $175,000, it wouldn't have to be a bid. We would just solicit for quotes from contractors the same way that we're doing the seal coat, for the summer. So we wouldn't have to do it as formally as we did like Depew Avenue or anything like that. So you would have options there as far as which contractors you would like us to reach out to, or local contractors. Yes. And then, so we would just solicit to them. So we would send them the packet information, and then they would give us a quote, and then council would decide from there. Again, kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit there. But questions on the project itself?
So this is something, if you remember, that we approached, there was a memo in a couple of previous packets where this was a recommendation from the park board that you all approved. So this is the like formal contract to move forward with this project.
Just a reminder, this is basically like a stormwater project with some aesthetics built into it.
Well, right, and then talking with Elizabeth, it's all the money is gonna come out of the stormwater fund, the electrical fund.
Yep.
And so there's no bonding for this, and
Correct.
for that reason, I'm for it.
Correct. Park board's approved of the design?
Yep.
Sweet. Would it helpful to, for it to be a, would it be helpful for it to be a bigger green space since normally permeable surfaces drain better than non-permeable?
They wanted to minimize the maintenance for the public works team as well as allow seating in the area. So residents could possibly enjoy ice cream across the street or something like that to accommodate for seating.
Like an outdoor cafe type area.
Sounds great.
But they did talk about that.
But it's gonna have that big planter
Yeah.
circle in the middle anyway,
Correct.
so there'll be
Yep.
plenty of greenery.
And then that was one thing, in
Skateboard.
previous renditions of it, we had this more centered, but then brought it closer to the street. So this would be 9th Street here, so you'd have sidewalk. And we brought it closer just so that you would see it from a further distance away. Now, this exact location can be adjusted once we get into preliminary design. However, we feel it would be better served, but that was kind of the idea. And then in the off season, I think it was mentioned of putting the holiday Christmas tree in that planter, because then it would be out of the way. But again, jumping ahead a little bit, but
To approve the Dowling Park project?
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Evers to approve the Dowling Park project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Kendra.
Yes.
All right, down to committee reports. Are there any reports from staff?
Yes, a couple. So the city of Olivia attended the Bold Career Fair on May 15th. We had about 120 students attend and it was very exciting. We provided them with popcorn and we helped tie their interest to different city jobs. We also had a very good meeting with Bex about their infrastructure needs, and they look forward to meeting with you all on June 3rd. And we'll be sending materials in advance of that meeting. Also today, Marcus Construction was here having the pre-bid meeting. So there are some people looking around, framers and things, City Hall. We'll be opening, the bid opening is May 30th with the hope on June 3rd to present you with the different options for your review and approval. So June 3rd, nobody can be absent. We have a very full agenda. So that's what I have for reports of staff.
Plan on reading them.
So,
I'll come hangry.
okay.
All right.
I'll bring you.
We did have a planning and zoning meeting, and there we approved some building plans for the school. Nothing major. I don't think we had any other meetings since then that I can recall. Any full meetings?
No, there's been no PUC either, so I don't have anything to report.
All right.
Parks board, EDA's
Oh.
Wednesday.
Any other reports from staff? All right. Hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
I have notices and communications. You missed that one. I tried to make sure I was staggering them appropriately.
We have a couple, Jabble.
Sorry, yes. So our notice and communications, the city of Olivia is hiring. We have an opening for a public works worker as well as a summer intern. So if you know of anybody who would be a good candidate for those two positions, please direct them Jasmine's way. Jasmine is the one who collects all that information.
What's the summer internship like?
Yeah, the summer intern will be here at City Hall, helping kind of with our customer service, helping out residents, answering phone calls, answering their inquiries. They'll also be tasked with helping out with Corn Capital Days. So while Corn Capital Days is not the city full responsibility, it's with the nonprofit Corn Capital Days Incorporated. The city is a very active partner with Corn Capital Days, and we would love to give this summer intern the experience of helping manage those different city events.
What are the age requirements?
High school and up.
High school. Is it paid?
It is paid. It's not full-time. We're not asking for 40 hours a week. So we are flexible, but it should be fun. We're a good group to work with.
Did you get any leads at the career fair?
We handed out some applications to some teachers who said that they had some good students in mind.
Cool.
When does it start?
It starts really after school, so in June.
Assuming they get the pipes fixed.
Yes.
All right. No other notices or communications. I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Second.
Motion's been made by Evers, seconded by Paternoss to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.